Hello, I'm Jonah with Magnanimous Media, and this is the Steadicam Zephyr.
The Zephyr is Steadicam's offering for camera systems between 9 and 24 pounds. It offers a host of features not found on its lighter counterparts that allow for easier and more precise calibration with smoother overall operation. A Steadicam gives you the ability to execute unrestricted, smooth camera movements, making it ideal for long takes and intricate moves. The Zephyr sled has an adjustable center post and mounting points for weights, allowing you to customize the camera's height. The dovetail mounting system and independent adjustments for the monitor and battery make this system easy to balance and make corrections on the fly, especially when compared to the Steadicam Pilot or Scout, much easier.
The Zephyr's payload makes it ideal for kitted cinema cameras and broadcast cameras. While lighter systems can accommodate stripped-down cameras, the Zephyr can accommodate larger camera systems with cine glass. The Zephyr will accommodate cameras such as the C300, Epic, or Scarlett with reasonable accessories such as matte boxes and lens control. The Zephyr can accommodate cameras such as the Arri Alexa, but you'll want to accessorize conservatively. The Zephyr is a great step up from a Pilot or a Scout. People who are used to the Pilot or Scout are going to settle into the advantages of the Zephyr immediately. It's going to leave you a ton of room to expand to larger and heavier camera systems. People that are not experienced with Steadicam, we certainly suggest that you check out a Pilot or a Scout first and get used to a Steadicam with a lighter system before you move to something heavy. Remember that any Steadicam takes a lot of practice to master. If you want great results on the first go-around, talk to us about hiring a professional Steadicam operator and you won't be disappointed. Operating a Steadicam can be compared to choreography. You're going to want to practice your moves and leave plenty of time to master them before you shoot them. For best results, we suggest that you use a wireless lens control system and have an AC pull focus for you. You're not going to be able to touch this lens or use a manual follow focus while you're operating, as it's going to interrupt the smooth motion of the Steadicam. If you don't have a wireless lens control system, we suggest that you employ a wide-angle lens with deep depth of field so that you can try to make sure that everything's going to be in focus while you're moving. I've found that it's useful to have camera tape, grease pencil, and a marker handy. The camera tape is going to be useful in taping down wires, as well as marking the sled, especially if you plan on transitioning between low mode and standard mode. Using camera tape is going to ensure that no adhesive is left on the sled or on the camera. And your grease pencil is going to be useful in marking your center of gravity on the camera and should easily wipe away.
We'll start by prepping our camera. You'll want to set up the camera with the intended weight and distribution before attaching it to the sled. Keep in mind that modifications to the weight or distribution of weight will disrupt the balance, so lock down any accessories and mark their positions for insurance in case you have to move them. Remember to insert media and batteries. The V-mount battery system on the Zephyr can supply power to some cameras. Check with us for compatibility. If you intend to use the power supply, verify that it functions before continuing calibration without the use of internal batteries. Wires should be taped down, especially if you plan on using the system in low mode. Next, you'll want to find the camera's center of gravity. A level is useful for this, but any object with a thin edge and flat base will suffice. Find the center front to back and mark it. Then find the center side to side. Once you have the camera's center of gravity, you are ready to attach the dovetail. Place the camera so that the center of gravity is roughly close to the center of the dovetail, and use the 1/4, 20, and 3/8 bolts to secure the camera. Once attached, check your center of gravity again and mark it on the sled for later reference. The sled is comprised of the gimbal, center post, platform, monitor, and battery. Place the sled on a flat surface. Make sure that everything is secured. Adjust the gimbal so that it is positioned about 4 inches below the platform. Adjust the length of the center post. The further down it is, the higher the camera will be in standard operation and the lower it will be in low mode. You can adjust the height later in the balancing process, but make an estimation. The monitor power and signal cable has a 4-pin XLR and B&C connector on one end and a LEMO on the other. Attach the LEMO end to the sled and attach the 4-pin XLR to the monitor's power port. If the camera in use has an SDI output, you can utilize the SDI input. If you're using composite, use the video input. Attach the battery to the V-mount, making sure that it locks into place. Verify that the monitor is receiving power by turning the power switch to the DC position. Next, use the side-to-side and fore-aft adjustment controls to center the platform over the post. Next, we'll set up to balance the sled. The stand included is essentially a miniature C-stand. Spread the base and attach the telescoping center post. Adjust the stand so that it is roughly at the height of your chest. Attach the docking bracket and adjust it so that the yoke end is close to the stand. The yoke should be facing the longest leg of the stand. At this point, you should sandbag the stand. With one hand, pick up the sled, and use the other to grab the docking bracket aircraft pin. Place the sled on the yoke, letting the yoke cradle it just below the platform above the gimbal. Insert the aircraft pin to safely secure the sled. Next, you'll attach the camera. Using the small Allen wrench, remove the safety on the bottom of the dovetail. Be careful, the safety is a small bolt and sleeve and it's easily misplaced. Slide the camera into the platform, placing the center of gravity over the center post and secure the dovetail. Replace the safety on the bottom of the dovetail. Attach the power and/or video signal cables and secure them. Double check that everything is secured on the sled. Now we're ready to balance. Keeping a hand on the gimbal, remove the aircraft pin. With a hand on the gimbal and one on the gimbal handle, lift the sled off of the yoke and place the gimbal handle over the balancing stud. Adjust the docking bracket so that the sled can rotate without the monitor or battery touching the stand. Unless you've balanced this setup before, or are extremely lucky, the sled will be fairly unbalanced. The first thing we'll do in balancing is roughly level the sled. Adjust the position of the monitor and/or battery to get the sled roughly upright in static balance. Loosen the registration pin knobs for the monitor and battery rods, then loosen the monitor battery rod clamp to adjust position. If the side-to-side balance is off, use the side-to-side adjustment knob. If the side-to-side balance is extremely out, you'll likely need to adjust the camera's position on the dovetail to offset this imbalance. Once you have a rough balance, you're ready to set your drop time. Drop time is defined as the time it takes the sled to go from horizontal to crossing vertical. Steadicam suggests a drop time of about 2 seconds. A faster drop time may give you a slightly more stable sled for pans and use with long lenses, but the sled is likely to pendulum when changing direction or speed. A slower drop time will make the sled difficult to balance and sensitive to pans, but reduce the likelihood of pendulum. To set drop time, lift the sled up so that the center of the post is horizontal. Release the gimbal clamp and slide the center post until the sled can balance horizontally over its center of gravity, keeping a hand on the center post. Then slide the gimbal just up from that position and tighten it. Hold the sled horizontally and let it drop. Make adjustments to the drop time by sliding the gimbal closer to or further from the sled's center of gravity. This is a good time to adjust the camera height. Adjust the length of the center post and/or add weights. You can add weights to the monitor post or battery post to make the camera ride higher on the center post. Remember that this will change your drop time, so be sure to adjust the drop time after changing the length of the center post or adding weights. If I'm planning to switch back and forth to low mode, I set the drop time for standard operation, mark it with camera tape, then set the same drop time for low mode and mark it. Static and dynamic equilibrium will be the same for high or low mode, as long as you have the same drop time for both. Now we're ready to move on to static and dynamic equilibrium. When static equilibrium is attained, the sled is straight vertically at a rest. Dynamic equilibrium is attained when the camera spins freely without wobbling off its center. Loose wires may upset the dynamic equilibrium if they shift while the sled is spinning. Use camera tape to secure these wires, but keep in mind that you may need to adjust the camera or monitor, so leave slack or be prepared to retape. Adjust the position of the battery and monitor to get the fore-aft balance as close as possible. Use the side-to-side and fore-aft dials on the platform to fine-tune once you've gotten as close as possible with the monitor and battery adjustments. Now see where the dynamic balance is at. Make sure that the sled can pan around without coming close to the stand to avoid damaging the monitor or battery. Using 2 fingers just above the gimbal, spin the center post at a slow increasing rate. If you see wobble, stop the sled. Wobble should appear at relatively low speeds if the dynamic balance is off. A complicated equation can be used to determine placement for dynamic equilibrium. Often, the simplest method is to adjust the position of the monitor and adjust the battery to compensate, then try again. Small moves go a long way. Set static balance and spin the sled again. Is it better? If so, continue adjusting the monitor in small increments in the same direction. Is it worse? Move the monitor in the opposite direction. Remember that the tilt of the monitor also affects the distribution of weight and thus can affect your dynamic balance. The monitor or battery's position on their individual rods also affects the distribution of weight, so you may try adjusting the position instead of moving the entire rod. Once the sled is balanced, place it back onto the yoke. Secure it with the aircraft pin and adjust the docking bracket so that the yoke is close to the stand, as you are now ready to put on the vest. The vest is composed of the shoulder pad, waist strap, and chest plate with adjustable spar, bridge, and articulating arm attachment point. The chest plate clips into the shoulder pad, and the ratchet straps wrap around and are inserted into the ratcheting latches at the sternum. Unlock the latches and push the strap into the catch points on the shoulder pad until it hugs you without feeling snug. Next, lock the latches. The chest plate should be snug across the chest, but do not let it restrict your breathing. To loosen, simply unlock the latch and press the release on the catch point. Next, attach the waist strap and adjust it so that it is snug without restricting movement. The waist strap should ride directly above your hips. Use the spar to adjust the position of the waist pad. Next, you'll attach the articulating arm. Loosen the thumb screws on the attachment point. Insert the pin all the way into the attachment point and evenly tighten the thumb screws. Keep a hand on the articulating arm so it does not swing around. Now you're ready to put the sled onto the arm. Lean forward and align the gimbal stud with the gimbal grip. Reposition and wiggle the gimbal stud and grip until it is fully engaged. Keeping a hand on the sled, remove the aircraft pin and lift the sled off of the yoke. Simply repeat this process in reverse to remove the sled. Now you want to adjust the arms. Push the sled down so that the arm springs are horizontal. Gently let up. The arm should stay where it's at. Both of the arms should be horizontal in the same position. If not, you may need to adjust them individually. Use the tension controls to adjust the tension until the arms stay in place when pushed into a central position. The sled should ride on the left side of your body for balance. Keep all 5 fingers gently on the center post just below the gimbal to control pan and tilt. Keep the other hand on the gimbal handle to control the position of the arm. You want to have a gentle touch and don't grip the controls so hard that you translate motion into the sled when walking.
So that's the basic setup for the Steadicam Zephyr. It's certainly a great step up from a Pilot or Scout, and it's going to be a great companion as you move to better and larger camera systems. For more news and tutorial videos, check us out at magnanimous.biz.